Welcome to Fashion Reverie Talks. I am Tijana Ibrahimovic.
And I'm Kristopher Fraser, filling in for the gorgeous Miss Cicily Daniels.
Fashion Reverie takes you from the front lines of fashion to the front row.
All the Fashion Reverie Talk segments are based on published content found on fashionreverie.com.
So remember, if you want more information on the segments, go to fashionreverie.com. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button of this episode on YouTube.
In this episode, we're happy to have Fashion Reverie Editor-in-Chief William Gooch to talk about Dance Theatre of Harlem's new season at New York City Center. And I will chat about my new article on fashionreverie.com, What It Takes to Become a Fashion Stylist in 2026. We start all of our episodes with fashion news, and all of our news segments are based on fashion news alerts found on fashionreverie.com. So, Teyana, let's kick it off with some Devil Wears Prada 2 news. We have been waiting a whole generation for this movie.
Oh my God, everyone was so excited. I think it comes out very soon, May 1st. So red carpets were fabulous. It was very nice to see everyone so well dressed as usual, but nothing less to expect from Devil Wears Prada. And yes, like you say, it's like waiting for a whole new generation. It's a totally different, changing fashion landscape, which is the topic of the second part. And it's about Miranda Priestley, portrayed by Meryl Streep, who looks so good these days, even better in the first part than in the first part. And she grapples with the demise of fashion publishing and the rise of social media. I mean, didn't we all at some point, because it changed the landscape so much. And so, she's joined with the rest of the original cast, Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, who is also in the role of his right-hand man, and Emily Blunt, who actually becomes a big power player in the fashion industry. And Anne Hathaway is back as she gets laid off from her investigative journalism job. So it's quite interesting, and I can't wait to see it. I think we're all excited, almost imagining ourselves already in the movie theaters, or paying for our subscription waiting at home, seeing The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Speaking of things making a comeback, Jimmy Choo's Bonbon bag is back. Now, the original Bonbon launched over 7 years ago, and now it's back, inspired by bespoke artwork by a paper artist. I think her name is Helen Musselwhite. And this time the bags are reflecting the 4 seasons. So we have one for winter, spring, summer, and fall.
I mean, I like those bags. I'm known to know like bucket bags, so that's sort of it.
I do love a good bucket bag. And, I also love a good crossbody, just anything nice and compact for, just to throw your phone and some keys in for the summer when you're on the go.
Yeah, they're very cute. I love what they came up with. Very spring and summer ready.
Yeah, one for every different season of your wardrobe, one for every swap out of the wardrobe.
Yes. So there has been incredible year for Teyana Taylor. I mean, she's in a lot of my red carpet best looks, by the way. And so she won the Golden Globe Award for her performance in Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. And she was also nominated for an Academy Award for the same performance. So of course, with that come other engagements and perks. And so she recently became the face of Revlon's Super Lustrous lipstick. And so her campaign with Revlon will spotlight heritage shades and newer innovations like the Super Lustrous Ultra lipstick. And that lipstick combines high impact color with the nourishing care of a lip balm. So quite an incredible year for Teyana Taylor.
Oh yeah, honey, she's now Oscar nominee, Teyana Taylor. What's that woman gonna do next? She's got the beauty campaigns, the fashion industry loves her, she's got the Oscar nomination.
Let's
Got it
see.
all.
Well, that would be it for our fashion news alert today. That was fun.
So, coming off the Oscars, and while we're still on the topic of performing arts, we have Fashion Reverie Editor-in-Chief William Gooch here with us today to talk about Dance Theatre of Harlem's new season at New York City Center. Hey Gooch, how are you doing?
I am doing good. It's raining in New York. It's kind of cold, but
I know this spring is not springing.
it's not springing. But let me tell you, it might be a little chilly in New York, but I went to see Dance Theatre of Harlem at New York City Center, and let me tell you, for their spring season, they were not soggy or rainy or cold. They were hot, hot, hot.
Now, Gooch, I know you're a former dancer and you dance with Dance Theatre of Harlem yourself, so you have a deep connection to the institution. Could you
Yes,
tell us
I
about
yes,
that?
I did. I was a scholarship student um, at the School of Dance at Harlem in the mid to late 80s. I did not dance officially with the company. I was a student, and sometimes they used the students in productions, but I was never a formal member of the company. I want to get that cleared up in case some people from Dance at Harlem see this. Like, child, he said he was in the company. No, I wasn't. I was never really in the company, but
Uh,
I did study at the school. It was an incredible experience. I cannot tell you how much being at that school, um, and being affiliated with the company in some manner, um, really changed my life. It has informed so many things in my life. It actually has informed my career as a fashion editor. So it was an incredible experience being there during Dancing of Harlem's glory days, its golden years, which were really the 80s and the 90s were the golden decades of Dance Theatre of Harlem. And it was incredible being there with such incredible dance artists like Virginia Johnson, who was a prima ballerina of the company, being there with the incredible late Lorraine Grace, who unfortunately passed away, just an incredible dancer. And she was ballet mistress at the time and had photographic memory. She could see a ballet one time and she knew everybody's role. So Lorraine Grace was unbelievable, a really unsung African American ballerina who deserves a lot of praise that she has not yet gotten. I was there with the incredible Donald Williams, Eddie Shellman. The list goes on and on. Yvonne Hall, my friend Karen Brown. These were incredible dance artists, and I happened to be there at the time where Dance Theatre Harlem had moved into a different era. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a history. When Dance Theatre Harlem was formed in 1969 by, the former New York City Ballet principal dancer Arthur Mitchell, um, people believed that black people could not do ballet. So they really could not do it. We didn't have the right bodies. There was this stereotype that black people all had flat feet and big, thick thighs and, big rears. And we just weren't culturally acclimated enough to do this European art form. I know, Chris, when you're rolling your eyes because you're a youngin', so you don't know, but
oh no,
it
I know, but I'm still rolling my eyes.
yes, but that's what it was. But that was believed that black people could not do classical ballet, and Arthur Mitchell knew better. So he formed the company, and the first decade of Dance Theatre Harlem was more about showing that we could do it. We could obtain classical technique, perform great works, very well. So it was the first decade or so was about Dance Theatre of Harlem, really showing the world that it was possible that it was possible for us to do that. The decade that I was there, Dance Theatre of Harlem was beyond that. It was now okay. We've proven it. We're
Hmm.
now an international world-class ballet company, and we can do Giselle, their version of Giselle, which was Creole Giselle. We can do, the Great Firebird, the iconic ballet was created in 1982. that we can do Scheherazade, we can do the Balanchine repertoire, we can do all these ballets. So Dance Theatre of Harlem was in a golden era with big tours all over the world, the Soviet Union tour, the South American tour. They had a season at Covent Gardens every season. So it was just an incredible time when I was there, and it informed my life so much. Seeing the great Agnes DeMille before she died, she was in a wheelchair actually, restaging her great ballet at Fall River Legend, seeing Allegra Kent restage Balanchine's Bugaku. So it was just an incredible period, and it has informed my life so much, as I keep saying, and I am forever, ever grateful for my experience there.
So, on the particular night that you went to see the Dance Theatre of Harlem perform, it was also HBCU night. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, I specifically wanted to go on HCBU, Historical Black College University night. Sometimes I get the acronyms wrong. And it was an incredible night. You know, the executive director of Dance at Harlem, Dance at Harlem's in a new era now, but the
Okay.
executive director of Dance at Harlem is an AKA. And
Oh,
as is,
okay.
just like Kamala Harris, former Vice President Kamala Harris. And so they decided to have this night honoring the Divine Nine. And if those who don't know who the Divine Nine is, it is a select number of black fraternities and sororities. So you had the Zeta Phi Betas there, the AKAs, the Deltas, the Alpha for the black fraternities, Omega Psi Phi, the Alphas, the Sigmas, and they all kind of had a little presentation before the performance. They all stood up, they were all honored. And Robert Garland, who is now their artistic director, I actually danced with Robert at Dance at Harlem. He was a soloist when I was a student in the school. He's now their artistic director. But he's being so strategic and really smart of really connecting the new version of Dance Theatre Harlem to the African American community. Because, back in the day, the Ailey company was seen as a company that spoke more to the Black experience through dance, because so many of their ballets were based on our history, our story in the African diaspora. Dance Theatre Harlem was seen as more of a classical company, even though we did ballets that were based in the Black experience. Ailey was seen as more of that because once you put girls in point shoes, people kind of put it in another category. So Robert Garland is so smart. This is a different time, and really reaching out more to the African American community. And it was an incredible, incredible experience. Sold out. And a little tidbit, Christopher, I was there with your friend Kim Dillinger, so another stylist. So it was wonderful, quite wonderful.
So, in your opinion, how has Dance Theatre of Harlem evolved?
Well, when I was there as a student in the school, the company had about 50 dancers, and maybe they had a junior company called the Workshop Ensemble, and that had about 12 dancers. So, a lot of times the Workshop Ensemble would accompany Dance Theatre Harlem on their tours. And in case, you have injuries, they could kind of plug dancers into quarter ballet roles in case somebody got injured. So Dance Theatre Harlem had about 60 some plus dancers. That is not the Dance Theatre Harlem of now. It has about half that amount. It has about 23, 24 dancers.
Oh,
And they
okay.
kind of implemented their ballet company with some guest artists who are there just for their season. They're really not full members of the company. And they also reached out to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, a school I also attended, and
Oh.
implemented Firebird with dance students from that school, which is now the dean of dance at University of North Carolina School of the Arts is Teyana Taylor, who was a ballerina at Dance at Harlem. So that connection has reached out from Dance at Harlem to actual University of North Carolina School of the Arts. So it is different in that respect that some of the ballets that we love, the signature ballets, are very difficult to do because they just don't have enough cast,
Hmm.
company members to do it. They cannot do their Creole Giselle. That requires a large cast. You can't do that with 23 dancers. You can't even do Firebird. So they had to implement with outside guests to be able to even do their iconic Firebird. So that's changed a lot. And what's also changed, I feel, is Dance Theatre Harlem now exists in a world where Black dancers don't have to prove themselves, that they are classically trained enough or have the ability to do classical works. I mean, Misty Copeland became a principal, first Black female principal dancer at American Ballet Theater in 2015. So we're no longer Dancer Harlem is I say we because I once you're a dancer at Harlem, you're always a dancer at Harlem.
Uh-huh.
As an alumnus, I feel that they no longer have to prove anything. We know that it's possible. We know we can do it. And that's the new era. So they're doing works that stretch the company in very interesting ways. They're doing political ballets, something they didn't do very much in my era. So that's how it's changed. They no longer have stars. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. Most ballet companies don't have household names anymore. We're not in the era of the Baryshnikovs and Nuryevs and
Mhm.
Makarovas, the Suzanne Farrells, Patricia McBride. But Dance to the Harlem had stars, household names. Everybody knew who Virginia Johnson was. People knew who Lydia Barker was. Stephanie Dabney, the original Firebird, Lorraine Graves. Dance to the Harlem doesn't really have those household names right now, but most ballet companies don't have that anymore. So it's a different era where you go to see Dance Theatre Harlem. If you are a person of color, you go to see yourself on the stage. You go to see your stories, and you go to see the ballets, the works. You don't go to see certain dancers like you did back in the day. So that's how it's changed. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Yeah. But could you expand upon the company performance of their iconic Firebird? And you mentioned they had to bring in additional dancers because it requires such a large cast. Now the company's
Right.
smaller. And I know you're very familiar with Firebird as a work yourself.
Yes, I was a super in Firebird.
Oh.
Super means you're a superluminary. You don't really dance, you do the crowd scenes. So I
Mhm.
was in the crowd scenes. I was still a student in the school. I actually did learn the part of the monsters, but never got to perform it. But anyway, um, it was absolutely glorious. It looked great. The costumes and the set were originally designed by the great Jeffrey Holder. So Firebird, which is based on a Russian folktale, Arthur Mitchell put it in the Caribbean. So it has these lush flowers, sets. The costumes are very colorful. And Firebird has always, and there are different versions of it, different choreographers have tackled the music. But Firebird has always been more of a dance spectacle than actual a lot of dancing. Dance Theatre Harlem's version performed choreographed by John Towers has the most dancing of any of the versions I've ever seen. And you know what's interesting? ABT and New York City Ballet are doing their version of Firebird in the same season that Dance Theatre Harlem did their version. So for audiences, if you've missed Dance at the Harlems, you can go to New York City Ballet and see George Balanchine's version of it, and you can go to ABT and see ABT's version, which is I can't remember the choreographer right now, but Misty Copeland at the Oscars, and you saw it, Christopher, doing the musical version of Sinners, the musical rendition from Sinners. Misty
Yeah.
Copeland came out in the original Dancer Harlem costume and danced a few steps in that costume doing the musical rendition of for from Sinners. And she came out of retirement to do that. So, but this Firebird looks glorious. It looks great. Um, the ballerina Ariana Dickerson was wonderful. Gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful legs, beautiful feet. She wasn't as bird-like as some other former Dancer to Harlem ballerinas have been, but it was just a glorious, glorious transition, rendition of Firebird. Um, Kamala Sara, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, was wonderful as the Princess of Unreal Beauty. What a name, Princess of Unreal Beauty. She was really beautiful as the Princess of Unreal Beauty. But it was a great production. The audience was screaming and hollering and carrying on. You know, we have black audiences sometimes a little bit more exuberant than some other or audiences.
Mhm.
Every time the girl did a jump, people were jumping up in the air. And I wanted to say, you know, you're supposed to applaud at the end of the dance, but they were applauding all through it, and it was just wonderful, just great, just great, just great.
Well, all right. Thank you so much for that beautiful insight to Dance Theatre Harlem's new season, Gooch. It sounds like something very exciting, something all our viewers and readers should check out, definitely.
And they are still on tour. I don't have a tour schedule for our viewers, but if you go online, look it up. They're still on tour. Please go and see them and support Dance Theatre of Harlem.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful and historic institution.
Yes.
Well, viewers, back with Christopher. We will be talking about his latest article for Fashion Reverie, What It Takes to Become a Fashion Stylist in 2026. Fashion stylists have been taking over social media by storm. So it's a pleasure to chat about it. Christopher, welcome to our segment about your article.
Hey, Tiana, how are you? Since you know we spoke 5 minutes ago.
Yes, so it's quite interesting to see how styling has evolved by
Oh, yeah.
2026. So you currently work as both as fashion editor and as a fashion stylist. So tell us a little bit about your other job and what different types of fashion stylists there are.
Nowadays, as a fashion stylist, you are literally doing everything. You're doing celebrity red carpet, you're doing e-commerce, you're doing ad campaigns, you're doing runway shows, you're taking on private clients. It's the whole shebang now. Whereas, back in the day, it was a little more segmented. You were either an e-com stylist, you were probably a stylist for magazines. You were probably just a red carpet stylist. But with the way the industry turns nowadays, like everyone really has to be doing everything. So that's been a big change. And what I saw as soon as I started coming into styling and hearing from older stylists how back in the day it really used to be either one or the other. But that's no longer the case.
I see. Do you have a favorite area that you like doing?
I love ad campaigns because they pay the most.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that later. But what about social media? Has it sort of elevated fashion styling?
Social media has completely changed the game of fashion styling and the business in itself too, because now for stylists, the Instagram has basically become the portfolio on the calling card. You need to have your work on there for people to see what you do, see who you're dressing, see what kind of looks you're creating, and from there they can decide whether or not they want to work with you. Like a lot of stylists nowadays, sometimes jobs will come from someone literally sliding into your DMs. And in addition, social media has become so much a part of branding because now it's not enough to just be dressing people. Stylists really have to be their own walking brand. It's like you're your own institution, your own business of creative and media personality in a sense almost.
Right. So, what do you think is misunderstood about fashion styling?
I have actually had people say to me they think that styling is just handing people clothes, and I wish my job was that easy. Truly, Tiana. If it was, I think a lot more people would be doing it. But there's so much politics and that goes into even just like pulling a garment, the networking and the connections and the liaisoning with the showrooms and the pickups and the drop offs and the fittings. Like, they don't see how many literal hours can go into making just one look happen. And even something as simple as like one image in a magazine could be 50 people's jobs. Because between the ready to wear look, whether it's a dress, accessories, shoes, jewelry, that could be multiple different public relations firms, several different messenger services, assistants you had to get those, interns involved, and then in addition, like hair, makeup, etc., etc. But one image in a fashion editorial could quite literally be a total of like 50 people's jobs.
Now, is hair and makeup included in styling? Would you consider that part of it?
It For me as a wardrobe stylist, that's what I like. That's what I'm doing as a fashion stylist, the wardrobing part. But it's important that there is communication between us and the hair and makeup team because we don't want. I don't know. Let's say you have like a dress with like a really dramatic collar or something. Like you can't. You need to make sure the hairstylist knows that, like not to do her hair in a way that would like get in the way of the collar. Like would be like a problem with it being like too much volume between hair and collar. So you probably want to communicate to the stylist if she wants to do something short. She probably approach like a shorter style, a bun or something. And when it comes to coordinating with the makeup artist, you want to make sure they're not using any like colors if there's even something as simple as an eyeshadow or something that's going to completely clash with the dress.
I see. Now, what about wardrobe malfunctions? Doesn't that happen often? And do you always have to have like a sort of a backup look if you're
Oh
doing
yeah.
tutorial or a red carpet?
Oh yeah, always. It's very important as a stylist to always pull multiple looks. You can never just rely on one look and hoping it's just going to be the one for the client. When I do, like, let's say I had like a fitting for a red carpet or something, I'm bringing about 8 to 12 options for that client, just for ready to wear options, whether it's like a suit or a dress or whatever. In addition to shoes and accessories if needed, any jewelry, to make sure there's enough things for us to play with to create that final look. And then I send them off with their final look, but I also make sure there's at least an option on backup in case something happens to that one last minute, something spills on something, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. You never know what could go wrong. A zipper could break day of, and next thing you know, they're calling you saying, "Oh my God, you have a backup dress. That zipper on that one you on our first choice just broke."
Well, I mean, I actually just watched Coco Rocha getting ready with Christian Siriano for Devil Wears Prada premiere, and so she wore his dress, and as she was getting in the car, she said, "Oh my God, the dress ripped," right? So she ended up wearing the same dress, but I mean, I don't know how they fixed it on her way there. So it's quite interesting. I
A
guess it
simple
makes
rip could be fixed pretty quickly on the way to an event. One time I had a hand sew an entire belt loop back on in the middle of an editorial, which I really needed these pants for.
right,
And,
right. I mean, it also makes a difference if the designer is there with you.
yes,
So,
of course, too, because he really understands the construction of the dress.
right, right. Now, I mean, all this effort, I mean, sometimes it looks very glamorous.
Mhm.
Does it economically work for an average stylist that maybe didn't achieve, a celebrity yet?
Well, depends on what kind of styling you're doing. Like commercial jobs, like things like e-commerce ad campaigns, some of those can pay very well, especially like the big corporate ad campaigns. Like I've known some stylists to get up to $2,500 a day for like super big advertising campaigns. Anything from like those like any like big tech companies or even like pharmaceutical ads as well, which is a lot more
How do
everyday.
you style a pharmaceutical ad?
It's very what we call commercial styling. So these are like everyday people pretty much. So you're trying to make people look like very everyday. So like when you like see those like any of those like advertisements, it could be anything for like I can't believe it's not butter to uh I don't know, soap, Dawn dish soap or something. all those clothes, there's a wardrobe stylist handling those, and it could be something as simple as, I don't know, a navy sweater that they decided to go with because it really worked with the background of the color palette. And that sort of like commercial styling is a lot more understated, which is funny because those really end up being some of like the best paying jobs.
Right. So sometimes all you have to do is just throw on a lab coat on someone and like add an accessory versus like put in like a week's work, and economically the simpler job works better. No.
Yeah, even though, with a lot of those corporate clients, they are expecting you to bring a lot of product as options. Like it's a lot more minimalism with what you're doing in terms of approach to wardrobing. So that does make the job easier. Like you don't have to get super crazy creative with things. You just got to make sure people look nice, polished, clean looks, very approachable, something that the everyday person can look at and be like, "Oh, I relate to this person, and now I also want to buy this product."
Very nice. Well, thank you, Kristopher, for letting us in into your world as a fashion stylist a little bit.
You're welcome, Tiana. Such a pleasure to always join you on Fashion Reverie Talks.
Well, viewers, that's it for this episode of the season of Fashion Reverie Talks.
We'd like to thank Fashion Reverie Editor-in-Chief William Gooch for joining us today.
And for information on these and other stories, go to fashionreverie.com. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.